Well, we finished all of the main things about how to do the steps and all that, and how to develop literacy primers in the LAI methodology. The few different things that we need to look at with syllabary orthographies. May remember way back in the first part of our course and our universals of language, we talked about different writing orthographies, how to write the languages down, and we talked about alphabets, which is like our Roman alphabet, the Korean alphabet, Cyrillic alphabet, those kinds of things. Syllabary languages, which often is the Hindi script or the Arabic script, and pictograph languages similar to the Chinese script. But we're going to be focusing on the syllabary primers right now and how those are different. So one of the things that we can look at, so this is like an alphabet orthography. So each letter, remember, has a sound that is associated with it. So for English, we have the letter D with the D, and in this case, ah, the A with the ah sound, and that makes da. So one sound to one letter in the syllable. Now, for orthographies, it's a little different. So like this is the D symbol, and this is the ah symbol. But when they get combined in a syllabary orthography, this becomes the syllable. So you can see that the ah looks very different here. It's just a one line here that's mushed onto the D symbol, and they kind of become one syllable together. And so a syllabary essentially is a language where the orthography is written in syllables rather than in individual letters. So here's another example of the other thing about the syllabary orthography is each consonant character has an inherent vowel that goes along with it. So for instance, here in this language, this is the k symbol for the K sound, but it's actually the syllable ka. This is the syllable that represents ta. This is the symbol that represents ya. And then this is the symbol for the vowel sound O. But you put all of those together and you get this syllable. So all of these individual syllables now become one syllable. So not individual letters, you understand, but individual syllables. And the same here, we have this symbol for ta, and this symbol, which means, if by itself means ya, but then when you put them together, they form this new symbol, this new syllable, cha. And with that new grouping, then you have a new character that the new reader needs to learn. So syllabary orthographies, for the most part, we have the same general format. We have the same 6 steps to creating a lesson. We still include health stories, we still include Bible stories, but there are some modifications. And one of the modifications is that instead of 2 books, now we're going to have 3 books with a total of 100 lessons instead of 82. So we add some additional lessons to the created stories because we have to introduce things by syllables. So here's book 1 for the syllabary primers. So we do 17 lessons, and then we also include the same things as in the alphabet primers, title page, preface, rules for good teaching, teaching guide, pre-reading, the 5 steps condensed, writing for lesson 1. And then we have our created lessons 1 to 17. And then we still include our word cards and some other Bible stories. You can find these listed on page 233 of your guide in Appendix E. The second book is mostly the created lessons, and we have lessons 18 to 51. So you can see we have a total of 51 lessons that the writers are writing. And then lessons 52 to 54 are our number arithmetic, weights and measures, and a letter writing lesson. So we have 3 lessons here rather than just the 2 that we have in the alphabet primers. And we have a scripture drill, some hymns if there's space, that kind of thing. And book 3 now is lessons 55 to 100. And this is our 46 lessons, and this is going to be our health stories and our easy to read Bible stories. And so this all makes up book 3 of the series. So here's a sample of lesson 1 from the Hindi language. And you can see it looks very similar to all of our other lessons that we've been talking about so far. Still have your picture words, a breakdown of the picture words. The difference is that we can't break out. So like this is the syllable here, but we cannot break out the vowel because remember the vowel looks entirely different when it's isolated. So you have to leave the syllable together. And so at that level, it makes it a little more challenging. And then down here, so boxes 3, 4, and 5 will be impacted a little bit by that. And here we've shown the full word once again, and then just the syllable here. We've repeated the syllables here and here. And then our other boxes here, boxes 8 and 9, we're picking up syllables from the story just like we did in our other lessons. Now, in that Appendix E, you will also find, remember, our chart we have that shows the different things. You can see here the different breakdowns. In lessons 1 to 6, we have very simple boxing. Once again, lessons 7 to 11, we've added another column to our syllable charts here. We added our additional new words. Lessons 12 to 14, we've added another row of syllables to box 5. 15 to 64, which includes our the rest of our created lessons as well as our health lessons. We're still we're not doing as much drilling of syllables because the patterning, like in the alphabets. And then our boxing layout for the Bible stories is essentially the same. Now, here's another sample of a primer done with a syllabary orthography. And this one's done with Arabic script, and this is the Sindhi primer in Pakistan. But you might notice right away there's something a little different about this than our other lessons, and that everything seems to be flip-flopped. And that's because for the Arabic script, we are reading from right to left rather than left to right. So everything gets changed around, so you would be coming at the primers this way. So our pictures are here, our picture words we would break down going this way. And then we still have our boxes 1 and 2. But you notice we also here we have the Arabic numbering signs, not the Latin or the ones that we use in our English alphabet. And here we have our syllables. So we go box 3, box 4, box 5. And so Cindy was done before we switched the boxes up on top above the story, but now we would have those up here and this down here. So this is our story here, our scripture reference. You see how we put the syllables in the boxes here. And so there's a chart for the right to left reading pattern. So it's the number of lessons still the same, broken up the same way, but it just shows you the difference in the pictures and all that's on the right-hand side of the page, and the story and the other boxes are on the left-hand side of the page. So the other adaptations to the method that we've been working with. So we'll have 5 to 7 syllables in lesson 1, not letters, but syllables. And we will teach 1 or 2 new syllables in each of the next lessons through book 2. Remember, that takes us through all of our created stories. So we want to teach the majority of the most common. Once again, we've done the letter frequency count, but most likely you'll have to do a hand count of that because of the not necessarily being able to use the computer for that. But this is where your preparation team ahead of time will have to do this ahead of time. And then you got in book 3, you still have 3 or 4 new syllables per lesson as you go through the health stories and the Bible stories. So you've taught the majority of the most frequent syllables, but there is some patterning in those too, and so the new reader will pick up on that and be able to read new syllables as well. So the other things we need to look at is you can limit the number of new words introduced in each lesson, and you write the stories using the new words plus any of the old words from previous lessons as before. But lessons 1 to 7, we're going to limit the number of new words to 4 per lesson, and mostly this is because when you're writing by syllables rather than alphabet, it takes a lot more syllables to be able to say too much more. Lessons 8 to 52, we can limit to 6 new words. So remembering they're getting more syllables in each lesson. And lessons 55 to 64, which are health stories, will have 8 to 12 new words per lesson. And lessons 65 to 100, which are Bible stories, will have our 21 new words per lesson as in previously. So to keep the new word control maybe a little bit more challenging with the newer computers now and stuff, you might be able to keep it online like in a Google sheet or Word Express, Excel word sheet. But that will depend upon who you've got in your team, if they are able to do that for you or not. Or you may just have to keep a hand count, and we just take a notebook and every 2 or 3 pages we put in terms of how they do their alphabet with their single symbols. We just kind of put that in, and then we just write words that begin with that letter or that symbol, and we kind of have to do it by hand. And then filling in the lesson formats is challenging because most of the times we won't know how to form the letters, and so we need somebody who can write the language to sit with the facilitator and work with them on how to break out the syllables for the boxes. Those are the main tweaks that will need to happen to your lesson for syllabary orthography. And but like I said, you've got the basics are the same. It's just those little tweaks that are there that are listed in Appendix E.